Thank you all so much for coming and attending our roundtable today. It's an honor to have some time to chat with you about all things design. I'd love to start with just like a super quick introduction. Maybe just tell us about a recent project that you're working on that's like a little bit different than what you typically do. It could be a different typology, different scope, different budget, or just anything that is sort of interesting and kind of unique about the project. So I think we're going to start actually with our designers, and then we're going to end with the three representatives from our sponsor, Cheryl, Wagner. Thank you so much, guys, for the opportunity to come together. So not to make this awkward, but maybe we'll go alphabetically if we can figure that out, which means Alexis, you are up first. So tell us who you are.
I'm Alexis Redinger. I founded the LA-based design firm Preen, and we specialize in F&B, hospitality, and transformative space. I think one of the projects that's a little bit different than that we just started working on is our first dispensary on Abbot Kinney in Venice. And we're really appreciating the opportunity to go into the design space past lifestyle and really look at the sort of transformative aspects of cannabis and how one then, scale or time or relationship to self and to community and engage in that from the design perspective.
That's super interesting. I hadn't thought about kind of all the layers of that type of project. So I'm curious to hear more. Betty, you're next. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Betty, and I work at an architecture firm called Deloitte. And I think the firm that I'm at is slightly different because we are an architecture firm and we have 4 different principals, and they all specialize in different industries. So I am an interior designer and a project manager at Deloitte. So that's it about the firm. And then in terms of different project types, so us being a generalist architecture firm, we do typically take on multiple project types, but what's been different for me is we've been doing a lot of military projects. So I've taken on 2 very, very large ones. One is 2 buildings, highly classified, so I'm not really supposed to talk about it, but then the other one is 5 different buildings on a Coronado base. So it's definitely very interesting to go from what I was originally working on, which was F&B and hospitality hotel work, and now doing government work. It's kind of like a whole nother learning curve. So that's been an interesting process.
It's exciting to have the opportunity to stretch. And I'm sure some aspects of hospitality must be making it into there. So I'll be curious to hear more about
that. Definitely. The lobby space and all those shared spaces.
Great. Well, I think Jessica, you might be next if I am alphabetically correct.
My name is Jessica Lynn Krantz. I work here at Rodrigo Vargas Design. I'm the strategy and development head, and was a designer for 8 years, but now sort of moving into the more development space. We traditionally have been a hospitality and residential firm for the past 10 years, but sort of in light of the pandemic, we've been doing a lot more multifamily. So I feel like that's a new avenue for us. We recently completed the ARC at Cumulus District, which is a large high-rise in Culver City, which is adjacent to the Metro line, and sort of bringing into Los Angeles this sort of city living, not so much being a commuter, but being able to take the Metro, and the amenities in this building are really outstanding, where you have spaces where you can sort of WeWork, or you could cater an event. It's a whole different standard of multifamily living, not just living in an apartment building, but it's almost like full service, like you're kind of living in a hotel.
It's really interesting. I've been hearing a lot more about very souped up co-working spaces in multifamily, and I feel like that's like a genre unto itself that I'm like fascinated by. So I need to hear more about that. Great. Josh, I believe you are up. Tell us about yourself.
All right. Hi, I'm Josh Held. Jen, thanks for having us. I am the VP and Director of Entertainment, the illustrious title of Director of Entertainment at Wimberley Interiors. And we're focused on primarily hospitality projects and me specifically on the kind of entertainment and lifestyle side of that. And an interesting project that we've been working on recently is a fully immersive ballroom, where instead of having a pretty vanilla box that you come into and you bring in you bring in the screens and you bring in the audio and all that stuff. The walls are the canvas, and it's completely programmed so that when there's events, it's one thing. When there's not events, it's a whole nother set of content. And then when somebody comes in that wants to do a specific, sponsored event, or there's a brand that's doing a conference or a seminar, they can use the immersive content to really create the scene. So that's super exciting, and it hasn't been done that much before, so we're excited.
I would imagine clients are probably even more interested in using those technologies now that like everyone's become a little bit more comfortable, even just with Zooming in the last year, or do you find that the needle was already kind of moving towards these immersive environments before then?
I would say yes and no. I still think that clients and even the people that are renting these spaces are still a little bit apprehensive about, what if something doesn't work? We want to bring in our own tech, et cetera. So I think that there's still a little bit of a learning curve and hurdle there, but we're getting there. I think the more people who do this type of thing, the more we're all going to get comfortable with it, and it's going to be the new future.
Very exciting. Well, thank you, Josh.
Sure.
Megan, I believe you are next.
My name is Megan Caldera. I'm with Level 3 Design Group. I'm the head of design over here. We specialize in hospitality, interior design, and also purchasing. And I'm actually on a construction site right now. They're doing construction all around. That's why I keep muting myself. What's interesting about this project that I'm at now is that we are the interior designer and the purchasing agent, but also the client. And I come from an architecture background, so I get to put on my architecture hard hat as well. So coming in on so many levels, and we represent the management company. So coming in on not just the interior brain, but being able to think from, all the facets and how it's best suited to work together as a team, and how, the end product will be used even by the people who come, but also the management company. So I'm seeing it, putting our feet in all the places and being part of all the decisions is really interesting. And we've been doing that a lot more often these days.
Thank you all for your introduction. So now from our sponsors, thank you so much. Again, Cheryl Wagner, we have Marissa, Tom, and Melanie who are joining us. And if you guys just want to tell us a little bit about your role at the company and maybe even just give us a brief intro for anyone who doesn't know the brand super well, although I imagine you all do. Marissa, do you want to start?
Sure, I'm happy to start. Hi, everyone. I am Marissa Jeffroy. I'm the creative director at Cheryl Wagner. I also am the granddaughter of the founder. It's still a family company, so third generation now. So I have grown up in the company, but just within the last couple of years have taken a more active role, both in sort of the marketing side and photography, and also product development as well. So for those of you who might not be as familiar, Cheryl Wagner, we design, manufacture, and sell high-end architectural details for the home. So everything for the full bath suite, from faucet sets to hand-carved marble tubs, and hardware. So hinges, door sets, door levers, knobs, lighting, and also wallpaper. So it's a lot of fun being on the creative side here because we have a lot going on at all times. It's nice to be here.
Melanie?
Me, Melanie Turner. I'm the executive director of global sales for Cheryl Wagner. And I want to say welcome to everybody here on the panel. We're actually thrilled to have you. Marissa did a great job of really explaining Cheryl Wagner. I would just say, we're excited to be able to host things like this just so that people can really have the opportunity to see what we're all about.
Great. And Tom, last but not least.
Everybody, my name is Tom Graham. I'm the West Coast Regional Director for Sherle Wagner, based out of LA. I joined the company a little over a year ago. I relocated from New York to LA last year. So I'm really happy to have this opportunity to meet you and have this introduction. The project I'm really excited about right now is the opening of our brand new LA showroom. We're in the process of, I just received our first shipment of product last week, which is going to be installed this week and next week. And so it's going to be a little bit of a soft opening. We're going to continue to receive product over the next couple of months. The showroom is a freestanding showroom on the street. It's located on Robertson and Beverly. It's in the North Robertson Plaza, right across from the Henry Restaurant. And I look forward to seeing you here.
And I know we all look forward to going to showrooms as frequently as we did before. How hard is it to like specify without going anywhere? Although I'm sure, hopefully you're all going to places as well. So thank you all for the introductions. Let's start with sort of a big picture question. I'd love to hear from you all. You really represent all corners of the industry. Tell us a little bit about what kind of project categories and sectors are doing particularly well, and which ones maybe you're finding a little bit slower or just kind of unusual. I am very curious to hear. I feel like, you know, even from 6 months ago, I'm hearing that things are already changing. So just love to hear, like, briefly in your perspective, what's doing well, what's a bit challenging for you. Does anyone have, Megan, I see you nodding. Maybe I can put you on the spot and you can be our first answer.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the trends in other states versus California. I feel like California has been a lot slower to come back, a lot slower to put money into hospitality. Because 6 months ago, back east in Indiana and states like that, they were fully booked on the weekends. And we're, you know, on complete lockdown over here still. So interesting that different parts of the country and different parts of the world are getting hit at different times. So we're finding that trend. And also really interesting, it used to be a lot of renovations, a lot of PIPs driven by brands to be required to renovate. And what we're getting right now is a lot of boutique firms, one-offs, a little small mom and pop shops owned by a family of, hey, we're ready, you know, we've been saving, we have the money, we're ready to do a job right now. And everybody's either right now or maybe next year. So that difference in the industry, that's what I've noticed.
I've definitely been hearing a lot about the immediacy of things. Alexis, you have something to add?
Yeah, we're getting a lot of sort of mom and popper like institutions that have been there for 50 years that are now taking the opportunity to like brand and build, and that's kind of exciting. The other thing we're seeing a lot of is that the developers are really stepping into partnership with a lot of the F&B tenants. We're working on, and I just think there's an understanding that the food and beverage asset is so important to their greater building and all of the value they put into it. So they understand that the financial model is difficult and they're partnering. We actually have one right now that's active. It's sort of almost like a membership, like a Soho, like active arts-minded senior living. And we've been brought on before the building's done to then do the architectural analysis and to concept and program and create the whole food program and design. So that's kind of cool. I love the opportunity to do like a blended, generationally blended space in LA because there's not a lot of it.
Yeah, that's exciting. I mean, just senior living in general seems to be such a hopping category, and that the level of design seems to be increasing greatly, and the level of design investment and kind of like a more luxurious aspect to them is what I've heard for some other people. I don't know if others are finding, you know, or if you're involved in senior living yourselves.
Right, because where are we gonna all live?
I'll jump in on the senior living topic. We're working on one ourselves and definitely seeing an elevated level of design and service. And much to your point, I mean, for me, it's my parents' generation, and they're stylish people, and they want to live somewhere stylish. They're not ready to give all that up. But as far as category popping, we're working on a property in Cabo San Lucas. So 4 weeks ago, I traveled to Cabo, and then I just returned yesterday. And I've seen a tremendous difference between my 2 trips just 4 weeks ago and this one. People, I mean, the vaccinations are on, and I think hospitality there's going to be like revenge fun and revenge travel. It's absolutely happening. So we're still really seeing this pop in multifamily. We've got brand new build projects coming to us that are going to be built in the next 3 to 5 years. And much of what I spoke to in my introduction is it's a whole nother level. It's this hospitality, multifamily, hybrid. But we're noticing that there is a real focus on community. Like, even though these buildings are monastic and tremendous and slick and sexy, they really want to build community. They want the people who live there to feel connected to each other.
When you're working in senior living, are you doing both kind of public and amenity spaces and the living environments? I'm curious for designers who are working, and even in hospitality too. I know that there's still sometimes split between the design firm in charge of the suites, and then the design firm who handles the public spaces. I'm curious if there are any trends within that sector.
We are definitely working on the public spaces and the suites, but then there's different levels. Like there's memory care, and there's more of a sort of hospital aspect to some of these properties. That's not something we specialize in. It's a specialty, and it's something you have to be extremely thoughtful and respectful of. But the public spaces, they want to feel warm, they want to feel cozy, they want to feel cool and eclectic. It's a lot of fun. I feel like we're shedding this mentality that seniors are different from us. We're all seniors. We're all going to get there. So it's really like, what do you want? Like, how do you want to live? Your tastes aren't going to change that much in the next 20, 30 years. So it's kind of a nice reflection where you look at yourself and say, what design would make me happy? Odds are it's going to make your client happy.
I think too, in sort of targeting, a slightly older clientele, the old cliche was, traditional. And that's not what we're finding. We're hearing so much more about, contemporary as sort of the design language really for, all demographics, all generations, things shifting in that direction. And, for us as a magazine, it's certainly our brand. It's what we always cover, but it's exciting to see sort of a larger shift in that direction. So, this brings me to our next question, and that's kind of what are you seeing in terms of contemporary, and how is that balance struck between something that's very clean line, but also, as you're saying, like warm and comfortable and textured, and how is that playing out both in the spatial design and products you choose and the detailing of those products? Does anyone have a good answer for that?
I think that a lot of people now we're all inundated with images, and we see so much out there. And I think that now, like as a society, we're kind of, we are aware of so many different styles, but because we're always being exposed to it in so many different venues and so many different realms, we kind of naturally have learned how to blend those images together. So I think that's like a blessing for a designer, where we can take so many different design styles and put them in one space and layer them and texture them, and to the end user, the people that are experiencing the space, like they understand that, they kind of just naturally, because of the exposure to all this imagery, they kind of like already naturally see it in their minds, and we're just kind of turning it into one space for them. So that's kind of the fun part about design, I think, today, is that there's a lot of play in all of that. And so then I guess going to your question about customization, I think that's what you asked. I think a lot of manufacturers now give us so many different ways to customize things, and I'm so appreciative of that. And just Cheryl Wagner. I'm sorry, did I get that name correct? Cheryl Wagner. I've actually haven't heard of your firm, but just like all the things that you guys are involved in, that's so amazing, you know. And as a designer, I absolutely appreciate it from the manufacturer level when I put so much faith actually at the manufacturer level for those designers to kind of come up with new products, and that I can like kind of rely on them to kind of expose me to things that are, you know, on trend or things that are new.
Yeah, Betty, I love what you were saying about sort of people being more informed just through the exposure to imagery about what's out there. And I think people are, you know, the end consumer is becoming more confident in what their own taste is. So yeah, and I love what you were saying about sort of like the layering of different styles. You know, we have Sherle Wagner is probably, you know, best known for our more traditional styles, but we have a wide range of contemporary designs. You know, what you think of under the definition of contemporary, very sleek, sort of these like dramatic, but sort of pared down shapes. But what we're seeing recently that's really interesting is sort of, you know, the client coming in isn't necessarily saying, oh, I'm only interested in your most contemporary designs, or I'm only interested in your more traditional designs. I think people are open to the range and open to a mix of those styles within a space, or certainly from room to room in a home or a hotel. And so some of my like most favorite projects and visuals that I've seen using our product lately have been these incredible contemporary spaces using some of our more traditional designs. I saw recently a powder room that actually used our swan faucet set, which is, you know, very ornate, all hand chased, and one of our oldest designs. But it was placed in this incredibly contemporary context, and it just took on this whole new, like, cool feeling. I think there's like the industry is getting very excited about a new form of maximalism that has to do with mixing a lot of different contemporary styles and taking some of the history into it. So yeah, I thought your point about that was really good.
Yeah, I also wonder if too, you know, we're kind of in a period where, you know, sleek antiseptic surfaces are prioritized right now, kind of as a temporary, I think always sort of looked at as a very like temporary COVID era sort of look, you know, how hygiene is such a concern and cleanability. But like right now, and I feel like kind of, Jessica, I want to like steal your word that, you know, revenge travel. I feel like there's also going to be this kind of like revenge, like texture, you know, maximalism that will sort of be a corrective to these sort of, you know, temporary kind of, you know, in the COVID moment, sort of the need for surfaces that are so easy clean. I think the pendulum will likely swing the other way, or maybe it already is. Or
Jenna, I think that trend has been growing for a long time with the sort of organics and reflex and naturalistic replication. We just intuitively end up doing a lot of that in our work. But Marissa, it's funny, my bath spout, I think, is a fountain spout that your company designed a long time ago. And I had my plumber adapt it. I'll send you a photo.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
And I've got a cute photo of our parrots on top of, we've got the dolphin faucet too. Share it with you later.
I wish you could screen share a shot of that.
I can if they let me, but I don't know about the recording.
I was wondering about color though, because it has been so much of that whole, to your point, you know, clean, sleek service. I feel like color's really starting to make a resurgence. You know, it's really coming back, and you're seeing more and more.
Josh.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we always appreciate when a manufacturer has the capacity and the knowledge to create these vibrant colors that we can use and tweak and customize. And you know, lots of different projects call for different things, and it's great when you find a partner and a manufacturer that's able to realize your vision, and not just out of a standard set of colors, but really be able to tweak it to meet your exact needs. You know, that's always something that we'll keep coming back to.
Yeah, I think we've seen that firsthand in what new clients are contacting us about right now. One of our most recently released collections, the Dorian Collection, is very contemporary, but it has all these incredibly customizable elements, including hand glazed ceramic elements that are in a wide range of all these bright colors, but people can also, since we do everything in house, since we have our ceramicist, mixing the glazes and hand applying them, we can do any color really, and we can even do, hand painted patterns and stuff like that. And I think people are craving something bright and fun, even in a sort of like clean, sleek space, having that pop of color, getting to be involved in the design process, I think is exciting people. So it's definitely been interesting that I feel like we came out with that at the right time. It's what we're getting sort of a lot of feedback on, is people are very excited about this opportunity to sort of like bring something fun into their space.
Yeah, and with your capacity to be able to take something that's hand glazed and do lots of different things to it, it could lean very contemporary, or it can lean very natural and arts and crafts. I mean, it could go all over the place, and that kind of, that opens up a lot of doors.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Marissa, everything really is in-house at Sherle Wagner. Is that correct? There's really nothing that you have to outsource in terms of fabrication?
Yeah, we pretty much do it all, which can be a little overwhelming, but is also like what makes me so excited to be a part of it. We do our own domestic manufacturing. We have this big old mill building in Massachusetts, where all our different departments are. We do a lot of like old world. We do like lost wax casting, which is an incredibly old manufacturing practice, and then of course incorporate some more recent technology. But yeah, we do it all there in all sorts of materials. And that's really, I think that's why we're able to do the level of customization that we do, is that we control the process from start to end. So we can tweak existing designs. We can start from scratch. We've done completely custom. We can do, we've done historic renovations before. Yeah, and then even within our, sort of standard lines, there's all these opportunities for customization. We have 19 different standard metal finishes. So, including like precious metals, we do gold plate, platinum, a whole range. And then you get into the semi-precious stone elements that you have, 20, 30 options of. And then the ceramic, you choose one piece and you end up having these infinite possibilities for it, which I think is what gets a lot of designers excited. They see something that's in their taste, but they say, oh, but only, what if it were this way? What if it were that way? And we're able to do that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear maybe from someone about a project where they recently had a really like kind of exciting and fruitful like customization process. You either team with a manufacturer, or just had something that was kind of above and beyond. I'd love to just hear your experiences, Megan.
It's just, yeah, as Marissa was talking, I'm just realizing the age of some of our clients is getting very young, so younger and younger, and they want more, better, different, extravagant. I don't want to see it, available online somewhere. I want this to be completely a one-off. One of our clients she's in her 20s. And her taste has led me to look into a style called disco glam. And so working with, her, and we're going to start talking to manufacturers about just going really off the rails of, can we make a neon skate? I don't know, maybe that's what the front desk looks like something really out of the box, really extreme, because she is so young and she's just open to something really out there. And then, swinging on the other side of the pendulum, we have this very traditional family who owns their hotel. It's been in the family forever, and they only want it to look very traditional. So we're looking on the customization of, how do I make this look authentic to this time period, but also be a little bit modern enough for younger people to want to stay here. make it relevant, you know. So seeing a lot of age driving, and yeah, either way, having a lot of customization options in there.
I think I don't want to hog all the talking, but I just wanted to respond and be like, Megan, 100%. And I think that in essence, what we do is all customization. It's grabbing the ethos of someone's intention and creating that experience. And so, you know, for us working with brand, it's about getting at the deeper intention and commitment of that. And it was interesting when COVID started, right before we did a restaurant in Culver City called Piccalilli, and our chefs are doing a fusion of Southern Eastern Seaboard and Low Asian, which is something that's never existed. And they're sort of flamingo shirt wearing guys. And so they love pop and they love the darkness and shadow. So we designed it as a fresh pop apocalyptic waypoint in the future where two lovers could hope to meet before it all failed or when it all failed. And then we opened and then COVID happened. So it actually became a little too prophetic. But part of the design in the space was we created these life-size panthers and various fantastic animals that inhabited the space. And when we were able to work with the city and get them to open Main Street and extend their patio to try to keep their business viability, we turned around and then made life-size, super big animals just to try to carry some of their essence into what is basically like a really boring blacktop environment.
I love how like it's not even like a 2 or 3 word style. It's like a whole mission statement that this, you know, client needed. And I do feel like I'm hearing that more and more. Just you know, such a unique viewpoint that people want to communicate through their space. And it's also interesting to like think about how the generations are different because, you know, on one hand, sort of more the boomer generation is you know, maybe at a certain place in their life where they totally want what they want. And then the younger generation too, you know, is kind of maybe coming at it from different cultural influences or is maybe more guided by sort of like, you know, on-demand lifestyle, you know, having grown up in sort of, you know, tech natives, like it maybe comes from a different place, this desire to have kind of a unique one-off. But sort of the end result is the same. I'm actually curious, Josh, I'd love to hear about how like in entertainment, you know, is this playing out this, kind of very, you know, kind of like specific, you know, how does uniqueness manifest itself in the entertainment world?
Well, I think you definitely touched on something in the fact that, and I think some of the other people on the panel have alluded to this in what they were saying as far as we're in such an information age and being inundated with images and everybody sees everything all over the world all at the same time. So everybody's very educated visually. So you have to create much more compelling stories like the one Alexis was talking about. You know, you have to go really deep into the narrative and create a story that is going to wrap people in it and give them something new to discover every time that they come to that place. And, you know, something that's open-ended and ever evolving. And you just really have to be more thoughtful about what the story is you're trying to tell. As opposed to many years ago, you could, you know, have a big wow in a space, and that was, you know, that was enough to carry a project. I think you have to go a little bit deeper now, which is challenging and great all at the same time.
Yeah, I think in the 90s, there was a lot of looking good going on.
Yeah.
And
yeah, and it could be one big, you know, giant statement and that carried a project, whereas now people want to be able to discover parts of it and, you know, be told a new story every time they come, et cetera. And that's everything from hotels to F&B to even nightlife, which is an ever evolving animal as well.
Yeah, it seems to me that people are also sort of more cognizant and more demanding in terms of like quality and authenticity at the same time, which is sort of, you know, wanting to be very open and use all different design influences is not, you know, people are still thinking about creating a space that they're going to love for a long time. I think also in terms of people are more mindful about, you know, the impact on the environment. And so this contrast of wanting what's new, what's unique, what's fresh, and then also wanting like a timelessness that they're going to continue to love for however many years. I think is this really interesting juxtaposition that seems to be happening, especially like among younger clients. Yeah, and I think that's like, again, kind of exciting for us to see, because, you know, a lot of times, you know, sometimes when people first hear of Sherle Wagner, it's because it's in an existing home or space that they've acquired, and they're redoing the whole space, and either they know or their designer says, don't get rid of that, like we're keeping that, we're either refurbishing it, reusing it, we're going to expand from it and get the matching hardware, whatever. And so they can be completely transforming a home, for example, and then still sort of recycling and reusing these styles that sort of last throughout history.
That's super exciting to hear how sometimes people discover your brand kind of that way, because, you know, the yes, don't get rid of that phenomenon or factor, I guess. That's really cool. That actually reminds me of something. I don't know why this reminded me of this, but Marissa, we were talking before about sort of thinking about like how, I'm curious, you know, from designers, has budget allocation kind of shifted at all recently? Are you finding clients investing more in certain parts of a project or types of spaces or rooms in a house? Are there any kind of interesting little trendlets that you're seeing bubbling up in terms of, you know, budget allocation specifically?
I'd say there's typology shifts and restaurant, also like a lot of focus on market and curation. So that sector is growing.
Yeah, I have a comment sort of to what we were speaking of again, and maybe it'll tie into this. I feel like the elephant in the room is Instagram, right? And we talk about storytelling. And basically, as individuals, we're all running our own advertising agencies now, like advertising our lives, advertising the places we've been. We do a lot of storytelling via Instagram, and therefore our spaces, restaurants, museums, public spaces, they have to tell their story pictorially, and it's got to look good. And to your point, Marissa, about uniqueness and focusing on something unique, I feel like it's harder to find things that are unique because we are seeing so much via Instagram, via other people's travel. So when you have those sort of unique stories or something authentic in the room that's genuinely from the 20s, it's an exciting surprise. It's wonderful. Our scope and our lens has widened so much because of the way that we communicate these days. We're not just hearing about it, but we're seeing it.
Yeah, I think absolutely. People have become more discerning. And also I think less afraid of voicing their tastes, for sure. I think, I don't know if you guys have seen, you know, the end client sort of being more involved in the nitty gritty than they might have before they may have sort of known what they liked and then let you go with it from there. And I think people feel more confident about their own sort of design knowledge, or at least their own tastes. And yeah, I think that authenticity of, you know, the mixing of old and new. Yeah, I think, you know, people know now, like what something should look like, what something should feel like, and they're not going to settle for something less than that.
And I think from a budget perspective, wall covering and giant art walls have replaced the art budget. That clients are more willing to spend money on wall covering that's, you know, $100 a yard than they are to spend it on artwork, because it's that sort of big picture background, that those big impact walls that they want to go for, as opposed to having just like a small collection of something that's very valuable.
That's super interesting. I'm definitely seeing more kind of paneled walls, mural wallpapers. Yeah, Marissa, like, are you guys seeing it, you know, Tom too, like from your clients, are you seeing like certain trends for what clients are asking for, or what wallpapers they're most interested in, or what's, you know, selling best? Is this a trend that you see too, kind of on the manufacturer side?
Yeah, I mean, I think that people are sort of the larger patterns are definitely having a moment. Yeah, Tom, have you seen any of that?
Yeah, things that are very graphic and graphic patterns, for sure.
That's interesting though about thinking of it kind of replacing the art budget, and even how Instagram ties in. It's true. You know, I feel like there was a period where like every time I did sort of like a roundtable, like Instagram came up and everyone's like, oh, Instagram, you know, it's sort of like the necessary evil we all have to think about. And then there seemed like maybe like a little bit of a shift like away, like, okay, we don't have to worry about Instagram so much, but it is still like, are you thinking about in your projects, like, does there need to be the Instagrammable moment? And then you're right, like how do you balance that, like just like pure graphic image, sort of one moment in time, with this bigger need to storytell and create a narrative?
We're still getting requests for, I want 15 Instagram moments in my public space. We're still getting asked that by different generations. So we're still seeing that I want a sandbox in my lobby, or I want this wall that has some crazy light laser show. I don't know. So still a lot of focus on Instagrammable moments in public space. I think with the health lens and the COVID lens, like a shift towards health, like personal health. So some of our guest rooms have, health areas, workout rooms within the room. Because of the COVID era, we can't open that fitness center downstairs quite yet. And how do we accommodate for people taking care of themselves? Also shifts in brands like Element that are health based, right? They have the juice bars, they have the chef that's making you organic meals, they have the in-room accommodations and services for working out. So I think shift in the lifestyle brands has been really big. And then also because we haven't seen the brands change their standards to accommodate COVID things that we've, they haven't come up and said, yes, we're going to change capacity or we're going to change design of anything. And so from our designer lens of the end user, like how do we accommodate the brand, but also think ahead of, when is the end of COVID, and how do we have something amazing design that doesn't feel empty or missing or empty or missing, and take care of, health and safety and, separateness, but community is a strange balance right now.
Yeah, I think that sort of as an interesting contrast to the idea of Instagram and sort of visually sharing your spaces, I've been hearing a lot that people are also at the same time like feeling really strongly about privacy and about their own private spaces. And what you were saying, about having, individual gyms attached to rooms for individual use, for safety reasons, but also just because people crave sanctuary. I think we're seeing a lot of people who during this time have decided, okay, my big project is going to be redoing the master bath, the space that it's for me. I spend time there. I don't need to share it with the world, but I want to feel like I'm in a special, luxurious, comfortable, and private space when I'm there.
Yeah, I definitely am hearing a lot about that too. How many of you do a little bit? I know we talked a bit about senior living and multifamily, but are some of you working in the purely residential space too on any projects?
Yeah, we've got two. Well, we did a ground up architectural house in Oaxaca. I'm just waiting for them to put the lights in. COVID, and then we've got two pretty major like steel and fusion retrofits, one in the Hollywood Hills and one in Silver Lake. It's fun. I thought it'd be more relaxing, but it's not really.
Jessica, you too?
Yeah, we've definitely had a pop in our residential, and it's what you're going to expect me to say, that people have been spending so much time in their spaces that they really want to, change them up. Actually, lots of bathroom renovations, and it's sort of parts and pieces. I think people want more sort of flex space in their homes instead of like, this is the dining room, this is the living room. like you were saying before, like a larger bedroom where you could lay out your yoga mat, because that's now your yoga studio because you're not going to class anymore. Or, you know, the second bedroom is really now the office. So we're seeing people transforming their spaces to make them just more comfortable and more livable.
Also, that idea of flexible space is something that, you know, I think you brought up earlier too, just, you know, residential and commercial, there seems to be a real drive to, you know, multi-purpose flexible spaces that can do anything. And sort of now there seems to be more product to enable that. Whereas before, you know, what I was hearing from a lot of designers, just it was challenging to find the product that would allow them to create spaces that could kind of shift it as needed.
Well, I think, you know, thinking beyond COVID, it's also opened a lot of people's eyes to the great unknown. Like we don't really know what the next thing will be, or what could impact our lives in the way that we work, and the way that we, you know, the way that we play, the way that we work, the way that we do everything. So it's building in those kind of flexibilities to plan for something that we don't know.
For a long time, I've thought that the outlier areas around big cities were going to get development. And it's all happening now. I mean, yesterday I met with a chef and a filmmaker, and they've got, you know, there's an onsen being created, 70 acres with an architect owner over here. And there's just an infinite number of glamping ventures, of hot spring. We're looking at a hot spring development right now. And all of these, I think, a move towards not just to get into nature, but also like an approach to deeper wellness, which is exciting. I explain it by, you could be up too late and drink too much and eat too much, but then there's a certain wellness in that as well.
Revenge wellness. Well, it's interesting to think of how wellness is, you know, affecting, even just to get back to nuts and bolts of like product specification, like how are wellness trends sort of, you know, influencing what we're specifying. I don't know if anyone has an easy answer to that one. Or the answer?
Yeah, we're doing circadian lighting.
Oh, great.
Mm-hmm. Except not with we have one client who's afraid he'll get hacked if there's a lighting control system. I don't know if anyone else has had that.
I've heard that.
Obviously touchless, I think, touchless whenever possible.
Thinking of specification, where are you finding new products these days? And if you are working in, you know, multiple types of spaces, are you turning to some of the same sources for a hospitality project as, say, you know, multifamily? Or if you're working on high-end residential, is it, you know, the same kind of favorite manufacturers as, you know, completely different typology? Or do you find that you're always looking for new names, or are you more brand loyal these days?
I would say that I think that we're always looking for people that are innovating on the product level and innovating on the fabrication level. So once we find those people and those manufacturers and those partners that they can help us create any vision, we'll tend to keep going back to them. So, you know, it's more about finding who can bring your specific, you know, custom different visions to life.
And we're actually intentionally sourcing new progressive eco product, meeting with a team Thursday, a professor out of Arizona who's developed an alternative to concrete. That's a ferrous concrete, because concrete not being very great for the environment. And we're playing around with hempcrete and mycelium and mushroom leathers and all of that, you know, trying to feature it so it can grow a little bit.
Betty, do you have any sort of recent new discoveries on the product side, or places that you have found some interesting new products? I mean, and how is everyone doing with like no trade shows, or trade shows in a different form? Or were you not really so reliant on trade shows before to find products?
Yeah, I was definitely reliant on trade shows. I enjoyed going to the spaces and actually touching and feeling different products and finishes. COVID really threw me for a loop. I'm like drowning in cardboard boxes, and it's been really hard to source material. I do find, I guess just in particular talking about finishes, I did find things like Material Bank being a great source, just to like, because you can filter through for sustainability or for certain colors or for items like that during this past year. So I'm looking forward to going back and seeing things in person and in real life once everything starts opening up.
Jen, I think that that's the case for everybody. I think, you know, I think the design community is such a social environment that people have been so isolated. You know, once everything lifts, it will be terrific for people to go back and engage. And I think you never get that true feeling of what a product is or what a project you're working on as much as you do when it's in person. So I think that, you know, no one will be happier than the design community when everything open back up again.
Has anyone, you know, sort of, I'm thinking of maybe kind of the more positive spin on that. On one hand, it's been frustrating to not be able to go and sort of, you know, touch a pet product, but has there been something about like being forced to go virtual that has made you discover a new way of finding product, you know, virtually, or, you know, has there been sort of like a positive takeaway from the whole COVID experience in terms of specification?
I would say that I've been more intentional, whereas before I might just go like, oh, I'll just grab all the greens that you have because one of them might work. I think now I kind of have to be a lot more picky, and because I know that with everything I order is going to come, you know, all this packaging. So just, yeah, I would say becoming more intentional has been a big thing when it comes to selecting finishes.
How about even online research? Have you has it like having to go online to research? Has it sort of made you research products more before getting a sample, or is that not necessarily the case?
I think for me, I've really been relying on the intelligence and the integrity of my sales reps that I've had relationships for the past 8 years. I feel like as COVID onset, so many vendors and so many companies responded very quickly with cleanability standards. And, you know, these are all things that were already built into the hospitality industry because it's something we have to be mindful of anyways, durability and cleanability. So it wasn't a huge leap, but I was delighted to see like how certain leather companies or certain fabric companies really brought the product to our forefront so we could continue to, you know, work with them. And they're like, you know, basically, we've got your back. Like, we've got this. We've already done the research. We already have the technology. We already have the colors. This is what you need to choose from. And that was, it was kind of a comfort. It was really, I thought it was really cool. It made me feel like, oh, you got me. Thank you.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's shifted relationship of not only our relationship with a rep, but like the relationship between designers. Because everybody was working from home and samples were all over the place, and designers are so tactile, right? To have that library, we can't all have a library in our homes completely full all the time. So I think they started to work with each other a little differently, of sharing knowledge and sharing pieces and moving around and coming to the office at staggered times. I think it internally shifted how we related to each other too, to try and share and be more communal, so that we didn't have to order, you know, 10,000 samples. Yeah, for sure.
You know, sort of the intentionality and sort of being conscious of, you know, being community minded and conscious of the earth. It's all like good things, I think, in the end. I'm realizing we have about 5 minutes left. So Marissa, I don't know whether you or Tom or Melanie, if you have some questions or just some topics that we didn't get a chance to discuss yet that you would like to pose to the panelists.
I think really the question for me is, you know, because really you all are in almost some form of hospitality, that I felt like that industry really almost came to a screeching halt. And I know you guys were talking about it's starting to come back. It's mom and pop. do you feel like, in the future that, in a year from now, that's the industry that's going to be through the roof because it has been so, I guess, plateaued or even decreased?
That's a great question. I think that that everything's going to rise together. I think that that sector getting some momentum is going to be a very positive thing and continue to grow. But I also think that the kind of larger brands of hospitality are going to do the same thing as soon as we're all able to do that. So, and I think it'll help each other. It'll give more options and just lift up the whole industry when both things rise or multiple things rise together.
I certainly feel like this has been like a massive period of innovation, unfortunately sometimes like forced innovation, but that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes the most like amazing solutions come out of just having to deal with these crisis moments and, whole new like genres of product or types of spaces or, spatial abilities of space to perform a certain way, comes out of this or even just like new connections forged or re-solidification of existing ones. We all understand how we're part of this ecosystem and how dependent we are on, amazing relationships with, suppliers and our fellow colleagues and other industry members. So it's nice that like we have we talked a lot about community, we talked a lot about privacy and private space. Like it really is an interesting, we're at this flex point where it's kind of a balance of both. And it's interesting to see how that will continue to play out through design.
I had kind of like a logistical question. I was wondering if people have been having issues with delays from supply chain recently, because I know we've had a number of people come to us and say, this project is moving forward. We're excited. It's back up. It's going. And we're being told, it's going to be a year and a half before you can get XYZ, and we control our own supply chain start to finish since we work from raw materials, so we don't have that issue. So we're having people sort of like come to us in a panic. Has that been happening to you guys?
Even just the Suez Canal issue impacted us.
Huge issue.
Yeah.
The Port of LA. Yeah.
Yep, we're feeling it
And
here
things
as well.
falling off of us.
Right. The storms on the sea and containers being damaged and things being stuck in Port of LA. Like I can see my ship, but I can't get to it. And it's not like we can do anything about it. It has to go through the port. It has to be, so we've found that if we can get ahead of it far enough, we're getting creative of, okay, maybe we don't come into the Port of LA. Like, can we get in to San Francisco? Can we get in through Miami? Can we make it in Canada? Can we make it locally? What about Mexico? I think it's forced us to be very creative in fabrication and getting it here,
So do you find that you're looking more for maybe paying more attention to domestic manufacturing than you may have not been considering that as much in making selections?
Yeah, for us, definitely, especially if we need a now deadline, educating the client in what that means of price and quickness, right? They always want it fast and cheap. And it's a balance of, okay, is it more important to be fast or is it more important to be cheap? And educating them on supply chains and what that means and how domestically that, is more sustainable even. So.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that too in some like customization projects, because I think if people are being told, it has to come from across the world, it's gonna, you're gonna have to delay your project for it. They adjust their timelines, and we might be able to get them like a completely customized product before they were able to get, the standard off the shelf thing. So it's interesting to see when new people or repeat designers seek us out, sort of what their motivations are. And we've been hearing that a lot.
Well, we're about an hour in. We will end here with a big thank you to all of you for taking the time today. to speak about these very important topics. And especially big thanks to our friends at Cheryl Wagner for giving us the opportunity and making this happen.
Thank you everyone so much. It's been really nice meeting you all in this context, and hope to see your faces in real life sometime soon.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Roundtable environment is, it really will be nice when we can all get together in person.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Helene Oberman, Managing Director of Interior Design Magazine, and I'd like to welcome you to Product Live. This is our series that delves into the products and trends, grabbing the industry, and in real time, look at the minds behind the design. At Williams-Sonoma Inc., they are dedicated to transforming spaces through the best in design and quality. After entering the contract market, their design and engineering teams have been collaborating to elevate their product offerings to meet commercial standards. And with eight different brands at their fingertips, they have a specialized team to help support your design business and work with you to create solutions tailored to all of your project needs, no matter the scale. With me today to discuss their latest contract product offerings is Paul Gawley, Design Director for Business to Business. Welcome, Paul. It's lovely to see you.
Nice to see you too.
So first off, today we're going to explore a new banquet chair of all things that was designed across 3 of the WSI brands, which is Williams-Sonoma Home, Pottery Barn, and West Elm. But this is actually a continuation for Williams-Sonoma Inc. to design products across brands that really offer complete solutions for the commercial market. So Paul, it might be nice to really briefly touch on some of the earlier cross-branded products from WSI.
Sure, I'd love to. I think the most recent relevant program like that is our banquet program. It's a made-to-order banquet program. We have products across all 3 brands, so Pottery Barn, West Elm, and Williams-Sonoma Home. So because of that, we have a range of aesthetics, which is a big strength of ours. But all of them have stock fabrics or the MTO option, and they're all fully configurable. So you could have 1, 2, 3 seats, you can have corners, you can have rounds, and you can do any variety of layouts that you need for your project.
Okay, so going from the banquet to the banquet, right? So I know we've all sort of encountered those kind of drab banquet chairs from all the countless events that we've been going to through all the years. But Paul, what was really the motivation for WSI to tackle the redesign of the classic banquet chair?
It's also a big opportunity, right? Because there are a lot of them, and it's a sort of a widely used product, which is great for us. So our lens, honestly, from the beginning was engineering. We knew we sort of led from an engineering lens because we knew that these had to be durable. That was probably the most important thing, and then they had to be beautiful. So our director of engineering actually personally led the search for the right manufacturing partner. And after a lot of research, we landed on a partner that we're thrilled with and we feel confident about. And then aesthetically, obviously we can leverage the strength of our 3 brands, which I can touch on that. And then also from a fabric standpoint, that was a really important thing for us too, that we partnered with Culp Fabrics to provide fabrics for all of these chairs. So all the chairs, the fabrics are moisture resistant, stain resistant, and in case of 2 of them are also antimicrobial.
So obviously, you have a great engineering team,
right?
But of course, nothing is ever easy. And the redesign actually ultimately became a design challenge. And I'm curious how the WSI team overcame it.
So from a design standpoint, we really were focused on providing 3 unique voices within these chairs. A lot of these chairs look sort of cookie cutter, and we really wanted to create 3 unique options that spoke to our 3 brands.
I really appreciate the ethos of the company, that you do not go into design looking to do something simple and easy, because anyone could do that. But I do know for WSI that you're sort of always up for the challenge, and you understand that it really takes a journey to get to the beauty of the final product design. And that certainly comes through in the 12 months of development for this chair. But if, you know, I know everyone's like, okay, so we want to see the chair. So with this chair, like I said, it came across from 3 different brands. So Williams-Sonoma Home, Pottery Barn, and West Elm. And we should really go into some of the specific details, but I also want to throw out a fun fact for, of course, our audience. So like all your B2B products, they're named after old Hollywood icons. And so I would love for them to guess who they're named after as we go through them. And of course, the first one is Garson, correct? And that's for Pottery Barn. So Paul, why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Okay. The Garson chair is a sort of a simple, clean, familiar design. So what's good about that is you can flex it into a variety of spaces, a modern space, an industrial space, even a transitional space. It has a durable frame construction, steel tube with powder coats, available in 2 finishes, a black and a taupe. And then the fabric is a culp fabric, sort of a leather look, which is moisture resistant, stain resistant, and also antimicrobial, which is good in today's world. And the chair stacks 8 high, so which is great.
So did everyone guess who Garson was named after? So for the next one, we have Martin, which was for West Elm.
So the West Elm chair, the Martin chair, is more shapely. It's a little more modern, a little more decorator, which is so it'll work across spaces like that. This one has an aluminum frame, and it actually has a fabric instead of a faux leather, but it's also culp, so it's stain resistant and moisture resistant. And this one stacks up to 6 high.
So I have to say that I really do love that rounded shape, and maybe it just reminds me of like Dean Martin and his hips a little bit. So, but for the third and final chair, Fontaine, which is for Williams-Sonoma Home, I love this sort of, maybe whereas Garson's a little masculine, Fontaine comes across a little feminine, correct?
Yes, sort of a feminine, like a mid-century feminine look. So again, it's like all these chairs, it can flex into a variety of spaces. It can go from that mid-century thing, but it can also feel a little more decorator, or even traditional, I would argue. So it's an aluminum frame, also powder coated, has a faux leather fabric from culp, which is again stain resistant, moisture resistant, and antimicrobial. And this chair stacks 5 high.
Mm-hmm. So, and it's named after Joan Fontaine. And I do like that it almost has that sort of, sort of beautiful neckline of a dress in a way, if you think about it, which comes across. And culp is actually one of those brands that you've been partnering with for some of, well, I know it was for the banquette as well, correct?
Yes, exactly. We've had a great response to their fabrics. They're industry leaders, they're durable, they're beautiful. So we feel like it's a great choice, and they're affordable. So sort of a perfect marriage.
But of course, we all know that designers love to customize, correct? And wondering if the banquet chair offers a designer the ability to personalize the final design.
Yes, it does. I mean, we're excited about a couple of things. We're excited that we have an in-stock version, so you don't have to wait. If you like what we have, you don't have to wait months and months and months. But of course, it's fully customizable COM program as well.
So Paul, I'm curious with this beautiful banquet chair, how do you ultimately see it being utilized?
I think what's great about this program is its versatility. So it's obviously going to be used in sort of a conference setting, but we also see it being used in a house of worship or in a restaurant, just any kind of range of public settings. And I think because the design is attractive and it doesn't look like just a kind of an off-the-shelf commodity banquet chair, I think it does give it that versatility.
No, I mean, it's great. It's so much better than anything that I have seen. And I know that I would love to see it at some of the events I hope to get to once we're allowed out there again. Paul, obviously, you know, the chair can be utilized in a lot of different ways and a lot of different manners. And it really speaks to the flexibility and overall ease that you're offering both to the designer and to the product itself in terms of how it can be utilized.
Yes. Yeah, our banquet chair program is really a storage of the marriage of tested durability, design, and ease of ordering. So it's really all about giving solutions to the designers.
Continuing your mission to really design innovative solutions for the contract market, let's discuss yet another new product offering for WSI, which is a new tabletop So we understand that live materials, while beautiful, just don't perform as well within the commercial sector. So really, how have you been thinking about the elevation of the quality of materials you're incorporating into your products?
Yeah, you hit it right on the nose. Everyone loves marble tabletops, but they're prone to staining. Is especially a big problem. So we focused on solving that problem by developing a faux marble top that achieves the look of marble, but has a much higher performance when it comes to staining. Our testing revealed that these materials perform much better while also achieving the look. And then another benefit is that we realized real cost savings with these tops, which we were able to pass on to the customers.
No, and of course, and I think the faux marble tabletop sort of offers the look and feel of the real deal, but really it is about the performance and the cost that designers can get when specifying this product.
Exactly.
But I know, so it comes in 2 colors, and you've also offered it in a wide variety of sizes that really can also accommodate a lot of designers' needs.
Yeah, exactly. It comes in black and white marble, so 2 classic choices. And then when we introduced this program, we were able to expand our tabletop sizes. So we have a range of round and square sizes, and we've also introduced an ADA compliant top. So it's really an exciting program. We also have high dining tables as well. So we really look at ourselves as a kind of a full stop restaurant table choice for people.
No, of course. And it's also compatible with several different table bases, correct? That are part
Yeah,
of
exactly. Yes, it's compatible with several bases. We currently have our Orbit and Branch tables, which are 2 of our best sellers. And then as we're rolling out future tables, it'll also be compatible there. So
no, and like you just said, I think it's great that you guys can become sort of a great resource for designers for really all their sort of bistro table, restaurant table needs moving forward. So once again, once we could get back out there and designers are designing some amazing spaces that we can eat at, please make sure to go to WSI to get that faux marble tabletop. But I know you can't offer a little sneak peek of what's happening, but I know you guys have some really amazing things sort of in the works to really continue this journey into creating some great offerings for the contract market.
yeah, definitely. We definitely do. So we're excited. We got a lot of exciting stuff in the pipeline. We're excited to share with the world. So.
Well, Paul, I want to say thank you so much for your time, into your insight, into the great new banquet chair that I want to sit in very, very soon. And of course, to your new faux marble tabletops. And to our audience out there, please make sure to check out the Williams-Sonoma Inc. B2B website to learn more about these products and more.